half, right at the bottom of uh, this morning's Globex lows. And so let's take a look at yesterday real quick. I wasn't able to get a trade review up, and I wanted to kind of show you what went right, what went wrong, and why it was difficult. There were some very good trades yesterday, but the way that it set up was very hard. Let's jump over to that real quick. Okay, so in the morning, what I wanted to happen was that I would have liked a move out of the gate to the downside. What I was looking for, and I mentioned, was hopefully either a move here or even better, a move in here where at initial support, I expect a big response, a big buyer's response normally. Obviously, what ended up happening was we got one ticked to a new low below Globex lows out of the gate, and then we turned around and we trapped shorts essentially there. And a lot of times when you see a one tick or two tick of lows or highs, that'll often mark a swing high or swing low. Um, I did in the morning have a quick short here, which at half back, which I had mentioned, from the low here to yesterday's to the prior day's close, which would put us at Tuesday. This was half gap. I actually would consider myself lucky because you had to nail it exactly to get 2 points. Um, and then we rotated up. Normally, the white zone is a fantastic place to get a trade location on a stretch. I took a short here, and we just got run over, and that happens occasionally. And that's why I don't move my stops. Normally, this is a 7 or 8 out of 10 time trade. It just didn't work yesterday. I got near the back of the zone. It was very low risk. The issue with yesterday, as I stated, was that this entire area, all the way up here, was a valid area to look for a responsive short and a swing back to the downside. And we got that. I took the short right about here. And if you'll look on your 1 minute tick, you'll see that we had 1 minute tick divergence there. And it set up a beautiful trade to the downside. And I think the scales were 2 points, 3.5, and 5. What I expected to happen yesterday, and again, I'm going to go quickly, is I expected to have responsive buyers here. Some of the difficulties, we were coming into New York lunch. New York lunch is thinner and harder. And I ended up getting stopped essentially for 2 points. And we came back and did a backside test. This action right here is what I expected over here, okay, with a reverse and at least a partial retrace, if not a move all the way back into 1800. We actually still have an open gap right here at 1800 to 1801 that has not been tested yet. In the afternoon, we did move into initial support. I didn't take the long because we had news pending at 1 o'clock. And I don't like to put myself psychologically in a position where I'm going to have to make a quick decision on getting in or out of a trade. And so I passed on the trade. We had a beautiful 10. If you did take the trade, and some people did, you had a beautiful 10-point rotation back to test Tuesday's lows. And we didn't get a rotation back down again. Again, it was a weird day. The afternoons are harder. And I did take a loss there. And I just surrendered the afternoon at that point. I was slightly on the day. And I just felt no need to push it. Basically, if you look and you take a trend line here, you'll see that we had broken the trend line down, essentially going like this. And I knew once this was here, I tightened up the stop a bit. I knew if we didn't reject out of here, once we held above, that the trade was toast and there was no need in taking a bigger loss. It was half a size. I was down a little bit on the day and I let it go. And what my concern was there, and the reason why you don't fight it, is because we did drive and eventually drove 20 points off the lows into the afternoon test of the white zone. And what happened here in the white zone is what I expected to happen in the morning, and some days just aren't your days, and it just didn't work yesterday. So small loss, no damage, and managing your risk is the key to that. So let's jump in over here to today. We just hit new lows on Globex lows. So on your chart, you need to change that and move that back, and it'll probably adjust the zone a little bit. As soon as I'll take a look at that and go back and look at the support levels. But I'll probably end up, what I'll probably end up doing is dropping back 1787 to 1789 on this zone and adjusting by a point to account for the new Globex lows. Let's look at the possible scenarios for today. So the white zone is also Globex high. It's essential if we're going to have any upside to get above that. so far the pullback, if we look at the quality of the pullback, let's go to the volume profile quick. Okay, so I had mentioned yesterday this 1770 area, okay, is this area here is pretty critical, specifically all the way down to about 1765, 1767. But it would not surprise me at some point in this pullback if we came into this area. This is poorly auctioned here, which means there just wasn't a lot of volume that went off. We went through it very quickly, and the market likes to re-auction poorly auctioned areas. The first time we're down to this area again, I would expect responsive buyers the first time in. Again, it's poorly auctioned, but if we get below, I would look to move somewhere between 1770 and 1765. This uptrend is still intact if we pull back here. This is all within the larger context of a pullback. No damage has been done yet. And the thesis all along has been that I would not be surprised to see us go into a larger trading range of somewhere between, let's see, somewhere between this 1770 area-ish, right, and this 1710 area. Okay, that's a nice fat wide range. It's almost 40 points, right? So when we get down into these areas, I am looking for responsive buyers. If we go back really quick, and again, this is a 24-hour chart, but if we look at the RTH chart, which is regular trading hours, is what RTH stands for. Apparently I don't have the chart, so we will just flip this over to a RTH chart. And I hate how my charts come from mine sometimes. And let's trash this for a second. Okay, so this is the daily. If we go back and areas where we can follow, right, this is a perfect example. We'll see a lot of days we came and pushed new lows, right, but we consistently closed near the middle or near the highs. There was very few days. There's one long liquidation day right here where we closed near the lows, but the majority of the days we tended to close middle to high. And most of the time, if you took the trade while we were consolidating back to the middle, you had fantastic days, meaning the best areas to buy were when we got extended on the downside or we got extended on the upside, right? As opposed to a momentum trade up. So most of those days, if you also look where we traded back to the middle, was we broke the prior day's low just slightly, right? And then we broke the prior day's high and pushed back in. In this case, we closed at the high of the day. But most of the days we were breaking prior day's lows and responsive sellers stepped in. One day in particular was not the case, right? And that was here. We opened at the highs, but you'll notice on that particular day we barely pushed above prior day's highs, and then we traded what would have appeared to be back to the middle, and then we fell apart at the end of the day. So if we're looking for balance, which I am looking for balance, we had a very wide range yesterday, so an inside day would not surprise me at all. So if we're looking for balance, I would look to see that we either slightly break prior day's lows or slightly break prior day's highs, and then trade back into the anywhere from 1795 all the way down to 1785. Somewhere in here, I would guess that we would close in this area. Also remember, we're opening near the lows, and a lot of times when we had these extensions down, right, we would push down, but we did not close into the lows, and the attempt was to push back up. If we push below these lows, the attempt was to push back up into the prior day's session almost every day, even if we didn't quite make it. So let's look at what that would look like on the chart real quick. How am I doing on time? 18. I'm going to take about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to let everyone go get prepared. So if we look on, get my drawing tool here. So if we look at what that might look like, currently we're trading, let's see, while the lows are dropping back, we're all the way back to 1686. So I'm going to rework these zones to make sure I have them set correctly in accordance with the actions going on, and I'll repost relatively quickly. If we look here, we'll see that we're opening, let's say we open 1786 to 1788, somewhere in this area right here. Okay, so obviously there's pressure to the downside, and a lot of what's driving that, I would guess, is that bonds are getting crushed again this morning, which means rising interest rates, and there's a correlation, at least in someone's mind, that rising interest rates equal taper. And so that's probably a lot of what's causing the pressure this morning. In addition, risk-wise, Draghi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from the European Union is speaking, and he has been known to move both, specifically move the dollar and the euro, which in turn has had quite a bit of weight on the U.S. markets in the past. And so if you see a move come out of nowhere, it's because ECB people are making comments. On the economic data front, I believe all our data came out already. I don't think we have anything at 9 a.m. Let's see real quick just to make sure that is correct. I'll tell you for just 1 second. That's running behind. As soon as it pops up for me on my calendar, I will let y'all know what that is. I have no idea why it's running so slow. So possible scenarios, right? So we get downside pressure. The first test I would look for, right, ideally is we open up. We test up into the white zone. I will probably take a trade first time up into the white zone. It's a high odds trade for me. The only thing I would be caution of is if we open up and we have an open drive higher the first 15 minutes. And one of the clues yesterday, if you look at the 1 minute tick, was that we opened at extreme. We opened at 1,000 tick. And when I see an extreme like that, my concern is you can get follow through to the downside. It's about 60% of the time it's a strong push to the upside, which we got yesterday. But occasionally prior to that push, we'll get a rotation lower. As it was, we had an extreme tick opening, and we never got that push lower. What I would prefer to see this morning, since we have sellers clearly coming in, is I prefer to see a push again below Globex lows, which at this point is somewhere right in here. I prefer to see a push either again into this zone or down here into initial support, which was also yesterday's lows. After we get that, if we can push back above, close above Globex lows, right, and then hold, we can certainly get another push back into the white zone. And if we can get above the white zone, pushing all the way up into this 1800, there's an open gap here. I would expect rejection the first time in, right? And if we're extremely strong, push into initial resistance. But at this point, I would expect that we're going to have sellers again at the 1800 level. And then eventually, ideally, right, we push down below Wednesday's low. And if we can push a little bit lower, the other trap trade scenario, right? We push below Wednesday's low, we get a panic either into 74, 72, or even into 70. If we can push back above from either of these zones, back above Wednesday's lows, excuse me, I misdrew that. Let me redraw that one more time. Okay. If we can get a push below Wednesday's lows, either into 74, 72 or 70, 68, right? And then recover back above Wednesday's lows, that would set up another trap trade. I would suspect this time with the possibility of pushing us back up into the 90s. And then my guess is if we're in balance, we'll end up settling in this area right here again. And my guess is we are going to stay in balance today. Most of the scenarios call for a downside push, but from levels higher. Areas I would look for short. I would look for a quick trade out of the white zone and leave a trailer to see if we could get a possible trailer to the downside. If we get above the white zone, the area I would look to place another short wouldn't be up until the 1799, 1800, and really preferably 1803 to 1806. I would like to get the shorts nice and extended wherever I go. And what I mean by nice and extended is simply that we have a minimum. Today, I'm actually going to push that extension, a minimum of a 7-point rotation. Why? The range has gotten wider, and I want to make sure I'm in that zone. Conservative traders, you should not be taking a trade unless you have at least a 10-point extension today and maybe even 11 or 12 points, right? Because we have been pushing pretty far, and the volatility has increased. Unless you get to about the middle of the morning and you notice that we've just had a very tight range and nothing's going on, and then you can go back to the 6-point rotation as your primary minimum requirement for a rotation into the zone. The last thing I want to take a look at here is the overnights and what we're looking at here. Give me just 1 second. Over. Okay. So again, these are trend lines, and they mean absolutely nothing. Okay, guys, they can be run over easily, but the larger channel on ES, and if you'll see yesterday, let me get rid of this. If you'll see this, we pretty much held this channel all day from the close. It was the big, fat, wide-ranging channel, right? And all you'll see in those channels when they shake people out is you'll see a rotation down, right here, right? A shake below, we recapture back in the channel, and we push back to the other side. If you get down to the bottom of that channel today, right, we'll be all the way down here into this 70, somewhere between 78, all the way down to 75. And if we break below, you can easily see us taking 74 and getting back above that channel. So coming into the morning, I see from the overnight, we do have a downtrend still going here. We have a lower high from yesterday's high, right? And we are setting lower lows in the overnight session. I'd want to see that change is one of the things I'd look for. And also, we clearly have this downtrend line working. On the, let's hold that thought for a second and pull up another chart real quick, because what I'd like to show you is on the daily. And I'm going to wrap this up in just a second. Just real quick. So on the daily, we have this trend line, right, that's pretty much been respected. We broke up a little bit above it. It's going to be important that we get out of that channel. Corresponding channel to that would look something like this right here, okay? That's the larger channel that we're dealing with, and this is the middle of that channel right through here, okay? And currently, we're opening right above this middle part of the channel. So it'll be interesting to see if we hold off the open. Again, I'll have to watch price action. If we don't, I would expect to push down to the low, but for the most part, it would be quite easy. This is a 20-point range. Our average daily range is 10 to 15 points, is to see an inside day all the way around. And again, the extremes on either end are going to be the best place to place trade for larger swings in the day, trade location wise. And then let's take a look quickly at NQ. And we'll just change this to okay. We can see on NQ, right? If we look at a larger channel there, okay, this is overnight, right? We haven't given nearly as much back overnight as ES has, right? We're still above on NQ. We're still well above Globex lows here. Okay, so again, one of the things I'm going to key off of is I want to see, let me trash this for a second. Right, I want to see if I have any downside, right, looking at ES, I'm going to have to see NQ break below Globex lows, which we have not done again. And again, on a move to the upside, I want to see NQ break above Globex highs. We had yesterday's highs right here. I want to see that broken for a sustained move to the upside. And then we also have, from the overnight, if you go to your daily chart, you'll see that we have this downtrend going right here. And it would not surprise me to see break those Globex lows, backside test this downtrend line, right? And then if we recover back above 3480, it would be key to seeing the push back up. So I'm going to have my eyes very closely on NQ. It's clearly stronger than ES is right now. And the other case scenario is, right, we backside test this, then we come back up and fail to get back above Globex lows, and that could set a push back down into yesterday's low area. So that's what I got. I'm going to cut it short here. It's 6 minutes to the open. I'm going to go and adjust the zones real quick to account for Globex lows. And clients, I'll get that out to y'all first, and then I'll publish it on StockTwits. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Have a great day.